So I'm going to create a new app. Intro, app, intro to React. And here, as I mentioned before, Gamma. You notice we immediately have a lot more files, like twice as many files almost. Let it do its thing. It is going to take a little bit longer since this is a bit more of a complex app. We are installing like React and everything like that for this project. Song and dance. But once we open it, we'll see that our project structure is now slightly different. It's no longer just a public folder with an index and a main and a screen file. We now have a whole bunch more going on. And I would like to first find where that familiar space is for us. Where can we actually start writing code? Where can we start changing things? Any other questions from this morning before I get going? While we're waiting here, watching loading bars?
Why does it take longer to load?
Because we're loading up more packages. Okay. So not only are we getting like ESLint, Netlify, stuff like that, like everything from last week, we're also getting the React build tools on top of it. So the React build tools, very useful. This is one of those places where students either love it or hate it. It's a bit more strict. So like last week, you could get away with missing a closing div. You could kind of like get away with some weird syntax stuff here and there. Now actually yell at you. They've added on a lot more rules. Be like, nope, sorry, you have to close this tag to correctly. You need this inside of your HTML. You need this inside your JavaScript.
Do you have to write strict or something like that?
It's implied. Yeah. So you're talking about something called use strict.
Yeah, use strict.
So before ES6, before modern JavaScript was a thing, JavaScript was like literally like the wild, wild west. Like anything goes, things happen, just things happen. Us as developers were like, wait a minute, we're building real world applications that are big problems, that are really big code bases. We can't have that anything goes mentality anymore. So we're going to use something called use strict on top of our JavaScript files that tells the browser, hey, follow more strict rules whenever interpreting this. Like for a while with JavaScript, you never had to declare variables. If you used a variable that wasn't declared somewhere, it would automatically declare it for you. That sounds awesome, right? Like, I don't need bars anymore. Have you ever mistyped a variable name? Yeah. Oof, indeed. That one that's misspelling or capitalization error, that matters now. So we're like, no, you know what? We're gonna actually like tighten up this ship a little bit and make it a little bit better. So yeah, React goes one step further and goes, hey, you know what? We're gonna be a little bit more stricter today. So we're going to go in here, code dot, and for us to start it, still yarn start. Bless you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And you see now it's going to run a few things. It's running something else. It's not running browser sync anymore. It's running React script start. So, but it's going to do the exact same thing as browser script. It's going to start up a web server that's going to go off at port 3000. Had to sneeze there for a second.
What is Webpack? I saw something.
Well, Webpack. So Webpack defines how we bundle our JavaScript files. So it's the rules and processes to how we turn our core source files, all of our JavaScript files and stuff like that, into something that the browser likes. So it's pretty much the blueprint to how to build. Webpack is really hard. We will not be covering it formally, but it is a thing that you'll be seeing. So you see that, hey, compiled successfully. That's the Webpack bundling our React into more browser-friendly JavaScript version. And we're running it on port 3000, so same port as we were always on. And yeah, if I head over here to my browser on port 3000, hey, hello world. Yay, That's cool. So what code goes into this? Added React Basic. Let me blow that up, then blow this up. Live share, huh? Live share. So you notice already we have an extra folder. We have our public folder. We also have our source folder. Recently, for the past 3 weeks, we were always inside of our public folder. Now, we're going to be actually moving that. We're going to be working in our source folder. Yeah. So if you're in the public folder, you're probably doing something wrong. You should always be working inside of the source folder. Come over here. Cohort 13. Boop. If anyone wants to join. So now inside of this source folder, you'll notice we have a couple of JS files in a folder called components. So inside of our, let's start here inside of app.js. So here's our app.js. So yeah, here's our first real look into React code. Should look a lot like the slides, right? Nothing too crazy here. We have an app that's rendering something. I'll make that a little bit bigger for you. We have an app that's rendering something, and we have two new keywords, export and import. So importing is us pulling in something to use. Exporting is us making this thing available someplace else. So here we're importing React, importing component. We're also importing Hello World. So we're pulling in files, stuff from other files or other packages, or libraries. We're pulling in other stuff for us to use.
It's like open.
Hmm?
It's like open.
Yes, we're pulling it in and we're going to open them up.
So that's essentially what import React and then component from React is doing. Is
Yep.
It's pulling in
Yep.
the library itself and then setting essentially a definition. Saying component is from React.
Yep.
That allows us to create those.
Yep. So I'm saying, hey, I'm pulling in React from React. I'm pulling in Hello World from this file path. So they go to my components folder. I should see something called hello world.js, and I should see a component there. We can import it from a library or from a file path. We'll kind of work with those more as we go.
Can we see where the components file is?
We will.
Okay.
We will. We can hop there now if you really want, but we will get there. Inside of here, here's our components folder, and here's our hello world.js. Now, as you can see, importing React, our render function, and then we're exporting it. Typically, this export's going to be there most times.
Can we delete the import and export?
Nope. If we delete it, if we delete the import, we're saying we're actually getting rid of React for this component. So like that wouldn't work. It would fail. And if we don't export it, then any place that consumes this, that uses this, would no longer be able to use it. So here's our Hello World component that does something very simple. We are using it inside of app.js, which is its own component, its own thing. And we're exporting this app someplace. And where this thing is being exported is inside of index.js. This file you will not have to touch, ever. This is more just like a, here's what it is. Now let's put it back in our back pocket and never talk about it ever again. Yep. But as you can see, we're importing app from app.js. We're also importing our CSS here. Right, so this is where we're making our link to our CSS page.
You know, I found that you do everything, you import everything,
Yes.
as opposed to writing everything down.
Yep.
Why is that?
So now we're importing stuff to help keep our code base a little bit more organized. Instead of like linking to like CDNs or
Right.
linking to files that's inside of our HTML, we're now giving us a little bit more structure. Because if we wanted to use these files inside of our HTML, I'd have to link to index.js, app.js, hello world.js, as well as React, as well as my CSS.
The simplicity.
So what this is doing, Webpack, is taking all of that stuff, boiling it together into one JavaScript file. And just saying, hey, let's point to that JavaScript file and call it a day. So instead of us manually linking in everything, we're just saying we're going to tell you how to link it, then you link it for me.
Is that when it said like export default, is index the default then?
Mhm.
Okay.
This is truly the default for your entire page, but we really won't be working here. So you can think of the default as the app.js. So if I wanted to put something on my page, I would put it right here. Question, yes.
If you put it in the index one, what happens?
Here,
Yeah, if you were putting your changes there.
it won't show up. Yeah.
Okay.
Because if we see here's our React render, we're saying, hey, put my app in the thing that has the ID of root. So whatever is in our app is going to go onto the page. Now it's in here, we can put as many components here. But as long as we have that React DOM.render use the app, then anything we put here is not going to show on the page.
And we use app.js to really just house all the components.
Yep.
Very high level.
Yep. Our app.js is our new main.js. We're going to start working here first. So let's put something on the page to see how it works. So I'm going to get rid of this hello world. And now I'm going to return just a simple section that says hello, welcome to React. So now we're saying, hey, render me out this section. Hello, welcome to React. And if I head on over to my page, ta-da, it's taking this JSX and saying, hey, everywhere where we are rendering an application, rendering an app, put this render out this JSX.
Would you have to repeat the render function over and over again, or can you just put everything in there?
It's just one render function and that's it.
It's cool.
Now each component will have its own render function. So, question?
So that is the only function as a library. The rendering.
For today, yes. Yes, we're going to add a whole bunch of other functions that come with it. But for today, it's only render. Today, I want you all to start thinking about your website and components as well that have a render function.
Could we create another function after math?
Yeah, there's a few that we'll get to that we'll use a lot, but render's the first one.
Can I ask you, it's a side question into that.
Yeah.
So there was this one section that I read about that every developer should have, and they recommend React as one of the key systems to use, that every developer should be able to have their own app in order to debug and all this other good stuff. Do you think, in your experience, that it's best to use React so you could, have your own applications, personal applications when you do work?
So React has a lot of principles and philosophies that we'll get to that we've kind of been sprinkling along as we go. Like we mentioned pure functions, right? Functions that don't have any side effects. We've mentioned simple functions. We've mentioned a whole bunch of things called functional programming. React really embraces that stuff. So it really helps developers think in a better way. It also, because it's so close to JavaScript, it makes us better JavaScript developers.
Okay.
So if you're going to be doing web stuff, React is a really good stepping stone to being a better web developer.
Okay, so to allow you to do all your things, like say, this is brand new, so when they say having their own app, it just means to be able to have something that they can immediately gauge into their application and be able to figure out what the problem is.
Yeah, React is really good for rapid prototyping.
Right, okay.
So we can just be like, I'm going to create a new app. Here's a React app standing up for me really fast. Good question. So let's create our first component. I'm going to come over here. Let me check something real fast. I think I disabled all my React stuff. Enable. So, quick little side tour for extensions. These two extensions, React.js code snippets and JSX snippets, these are the two extensions that will really help your workspace know that you're working in React. I think y'all installed those day one.
Yeah, we did.
I think if you haven't, you should. I'm going to go in and re-enable those real fast. Now that I'm working in React, I should use the React tools. So I'm going to create my first component. I'm going to call it welcome message. .js. So now inside of here, I want to create a React component. That shortcut is RCC, then enter, just so you know. You notice this is a very default component here. We have a simple component that has a render function that returns to us a div, is automatically exported, and it's automatically importing React. So this is a very good structure to what's to come.
So JavaScript, we usually use camel case. Is that not standard practice for in React?
So classes
Classes.
are Pascal case.
Okay.
Pascal case is the capital data.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one thing about JavaScript. Everything else is camel case, classes are Pascal case.
That's right. Okay.
What's Pascal?
Pascal case is the first letter is capitalized,
Everything else.
and everything else is also capitalized. Camel case is the first letter is lowercase. So this says welcome human. We are going to, of course, change that later with props and everything. But now if I wanted to use this, I'm actually going to make this a P, no, an H3 tag. I wish it worked like that. Like you could just like H and like 23 would actually calculate it out, but it only goes up to 6, which is a bummer. Even though I don't know why I need a H23 because it'd be like a really tiny. Anyways, ranting aside, I now want to import it. So I'm going to import a welcome message from. So I'm saying, hey, bring in, what do I want to bring in? What do I want to actually use? What do I want to call it? From. Now this from is going to be a file path. So /, look in the current directory for a folder called components / welcome message. Now you notice I left off the .js, right? It assumes a .js extension.
Automatically.
Automatically.
Just in the background.
Yep. It's like, hey, it's a .js. Ta-da. You left it off, so I'm going to assume that.
Intelligent.
Yeah.
So it will assume things for us.
Yeah, well.
I
I just feel a lot of people get uneasy with that. It's like,
know, I'm okay with that.
Google did that.
What?
Google did that, like with Gmail, they just dropped the Google gmail.com, remember?
Yeah, so it's trying to be a little bit smart for you. You can still put in the .js there, and no harm, no foul. But yeah, generally leave off the extension unless it's something different. Now for us to use this, ooh, I turned some things off this weekend. Save, format on save. There we go. That's better. So in order for me to use it, I'm just saying, hey, insert the component welcome message right here. So now, welcome human. And I can reuse that as many times as I want. Yeah. Well, that's all fine and dandy. You know, building blocks are fun, but but I want to be able to customize them. I want to be able to actually reuse it. So this is where properties come into play. Is now I can actually pass components properties to have them display or render or behave differently, still using that exact same structure. So now I can say, hey, welcome, name, we'll do username. Username equals, naming things is hard. Coming up with the dummy data is even harder.
Put it as a label.
Superman, there we go. Actually, like, what do I use to welcome? So I can do like, welcome Superman.
Oh, well.
Username Batman.
Wonder Woman.
Yes. I'm getting there. Wonder Woman. Is it 2 words or 1 word?
I think 2.
2?
2, I think.
Because I've seen like the logo that's like the
Black
Yeah.
Panther.
WW.
Haven't seen that.
Very inclusive.
Black
Marvel
Panther.
and DC.
Yeah.
Funny.
Catwoman.
DC has like 10 different black superheroes that all
And you know what?
because they wanted to
Good
go
for
around copyrights in the first.
Is it twosies or onesie?
They wanted to use
like,
the same similar characters
that's a
that
question.
created their own. So they made just so that's why there's like 10 different black lightning superheroes.
That's
It's
one.
one.
Onesie, okay.
Flash.
So here, now we have all these different messages. We want to say welcome for each one. We're saying each component now has a property called username. And that username is different for each instance of that component. So now that I'm saying, hey, I want all these stuff to be dynamic, on the other side, inside of welcome message, instead of welcome human, I'm going to use my squiggles. So these squiggles are a really cool part of JSX. Those squiggles say, hey, we're no longer in HTML. We're now using JavaScript. So this squiggles, whatever I put inside of here, has to return one value. So in here, our logic has to be really simple. Like no if statements, no while loops, just like give me this variable, or call this function, or do something really simple. So here I want to go, hey, my component I know has some props. That props comes from it being a component. I'm going to go, hey, print out username. So now I'm saying, hey, look at what I have, and actually render that differently for each instance. Who's Shazam? There's a movie coming out.
Yeah, all I know is there's a movie.
Oh,
Some
Shaquille?
different superhero.
It is a superhero?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know anything about it.
Like a
other than
superhero
the
that
movie.
they
Wow.
talk to by an Egyptian god.
that essentially if he says his name, he turns into like the 28-year-old version of him that's buffed in the superpowers.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that either.
It's
Is that Will Smith?
Isn't it Joe?
No, it's his secret identity is actually a child. So he's like a superhero that's like an adult, but the mentality of a child.
Oh, that's
It's really interesting because like you see the world through a child's eyes, and it's
Yeah,
really
that's
kind of
cool.
cool. But yeah, so like ancient Egypt gives some powers to do
Some
cool
wisdom.
stuff.
Who wrote that?
And that is a DC hero, I believe. So, you know. How are we feeling so far?
So we're using this dot prompts whenever we try to
Yep.
put a variable on the other one.
Yep. When you want to pass data from one component to a child component, there's a new term, child component. I'm saying, hey, this welcome message has a data point of username that has value of super. Whatever we pass it now becomes props for the child. So inside of here, if I would console.log this.props, console.log, this is still JavaScript, we still have console.logs. If I go to my inspect element and go to my console, I can see the props of each React component, and so forth and so forth. And then, Angie, did you have a question?
Yeah, but it's not related to the class. So I didn't have the React extensions installed, and
okay.
I'm getting an error message in. So
Oh,
I'll see
okay.
after.
Cool, yeah.
So is this kind of like, are you like retroactively adding properties then technically? Because you're making the class and then passing it like the name.
Mhm.
So you could like pass it other things later too, and it would like update that,
Mhm.
the console.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes, that's kind of the power of declarative, is that we're kind of declaring it, then we can add stuff as we go, and it'll affect it. It's really kind of cool.
And then in Visual Studios, both are both those like apps, just one with welcome message as the main.
Yeah, like this is a class called welcome message. This is a class called app.
Okay.
Yeah, those are typically where we want them to be. So like normally we're gonna have like a nav bar component, maybe a article component, a carousel item component.
Yes, so maybe we could add a font awesome lightning icon to Flash.
We could. I'm not going to, because that's, and the reason being is that that's another conversation about how to add packages and use them. But if we wanted to make Flash a different color, you know, we could come in here and say if this dot props dot username equals Flash, then we want to return an H2 that says, OMG, it's the Flash. Dot to uppercase. Else return just the welcome message. So now we're adding a little bit of logic inside of here.
Can you explain again to me why 3 equals is always better than 2 equals, or what's that difference?
So the difference in being is that 2 equals will actually do implicit casting for you. 3 equals will not implicitly cast. So what does that mean for us as actually, like, what does that mean? Let me show you inside of a REPL. So if I do 1 equals double equals 2, can you see that? I'm going to get false, right?
Yeah.
If I do 1 equals, or double equals 1, I should get true, right? So what it's doing, it's saying, hey, does this one equal this one? If I do 1 double equals the string 1, what should this be?
Oh, true.
That's
Well,
true.
and
It's going to be true. Even though the types aren't the same, it's doing a type conversion for you, saying, oh, the values are both 1, so yeah, it's correct.
Well, because I chose to use double equals in the homework over the weekend, but
Yeah.
is it better practice to use the triple?
So if I use a triple equals, 1 equals 1, but if I do triple equals 1, the string 1, now it's false.
Okay,
So that's the core difference,
okay.
is that triple equals will also compare types. So generally speaking, most developers prefer triple equals.
Okay, that's,
And it's typically better practice to use it. So yeah, use triple equals. Some developers are like, no, double equals all day, or if it's this, this, and this, use double equals. It's like, no, triple equals. Because there's a lot of funkiness that happens with double equals, as you could imagine.
Yeah.
Because they could try to convert it to convert objects to types. I think it's fun. I'll send out a fun video today called LAT. Yeah, LAT. That explores some of the fun parts of JavaScript and implicit conversions. Great question. So yeah, now we're going, hey, if it equals the flash, we want to print out a special message for him, else the usual welcome message. So if I come back here to my page, blah. So now for us to use CSS, I want to put a class on my H2 here, and also a class on my H3 here. So for my CSS, index.css, inside of this source folder, index.css, here's just normal CSS. So we have hero, we'll give everyone a border of 3 pixels, dotted, blue, maybe, yeah, we'll do blue. Border, border radius of 0.5 rems with a margin of 0.5 rems as well. Padding. Now, in order for me to use this, over here on this, I just put a class on my tag like normal. Now, that being said, if I do it this way, I actually now get a warning message. Ooh, this is one of those parts where React's like, wait a minute. I'm a bit more strict and my language is a bit different. So it's no longer class, it's class name. And the reason being is that class is already a reserved word instead of JavaScript. Even though it's in HTML and it knows that it's actually class, it's now actually class name. This is one of the downsides of having JSX, which is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript together. So some of the reserved words kind of get mumbled around.
You don't need a dot with your hero, it's just fine.
Yep.
That's cool.
So if you're outside of React and JavaScript and like back in HTML and you were to do class name equals, would it still recognize it, or so class name just auto converts it to class in
Yep.
CSS?
And what about ID? You don't need hashtag.
You still need IDs still work the same, but you'll find that you really won't be using IDs as much. Like it's a thing and it's cool, but typically you're not going to be using it.
will it always give you the correction, like you just showed it in the console?
React is very good to like has a really good error messaging system.
Okay,
So it's usually like, hey, you're doing this wrong. This is what we need to do it right.
that's good.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
So class name.
One more question, sorry.
Yeah, go for
The
it.
reserved words that you mentioned, I had trouble with that in the homework over the weekend because location seemed to be,
Location.
yeah, like the word location, I had to put look, because it was telling me that it was already
No, I'm pretty sure it's not a thing that I'm aware of.
How do we know what words are reserved?
MDN.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole long list of JavaScript reserved words. But it's like the ifs, the whiles, the extends, the const, the fors. So like here's basic JavaScript stuff, and here's like a lot of stuff that we've been talking about. There's not many, but I wouldn't commit these to memory because I don't care enough. There's also a whole bunch of stuff that comes within browser JavaScript, which I'm looking for location, and that's a browser thing. Okay,
Okay,
so it's a browser thing.
gotcha.
Today I learned. To me, like I don't memorize these. So class name equals Flash, just to give it its own class. Gets a red dashed. Yeah. Because I like my site to look like the 90s.
How would you get it to Flash?
CSS animations.
Animation.
Have you seen the Captain Marvel website?
I have not.
It's very 90s. Like everything's flashy. Because apparently the movie set in the 90s or something.
It is.
It's very like flashy, ugly 90s website.
Nineties were beautiful.
They are.
I agree.
Super beautiful.
Is it already out?
I have no idea.
Oh, Thursday, March 7th. Next week. Whew.
It sounds like a social.
Oh, you weren't kidding.
I'm trying to.
I
You
can't
have,
believe we're almost
I think it would
done.
have been the Disney side. If
Almost done.
it's marvel.com /
Cat Marvel.
that one.
Yeah, a lot.
The suspense is killing me.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
This warms my heart.
There's a lot to it. Like the more you scroll down, the worse it gets.
Oh.
Great.
Wow, it's art. Was it PowerPoint words?
This.
Oh, I love it. This is an art form on its own.
It is.
Not a guest book.
Okay.
Totally not.
Hopefully you can see like HTML and CSS. Like you should be able to build this. A little bit of weird.
Faces popping in every
Something
once in a
has to
while.
pop up.
Yeah, you can just
Okay.
This makes me happy. For some really weird reason, this makes me really
That is creepy.
Everything's moving. This is terrible for people who like to see.
Oh
But I
yeah.
bet you it took longer to design this than if they went with the regular site.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Like,
Sure.
that was well crafted to invoke that reaction right there. That's the great user experience of that site. Which made me happy.
When, I was gonna say to inspect to see what they have in the background, probably.
You notice how slow it is too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we inspect it,
Oh gosh, I'm scared.
they have 2 errors.
Oh wow.
Oh, it looks like there's audio.
Oh,
nice.
no.
Maybe it'll make the dial-up sound.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, but their background is just a URL.
So an API?
Probably not an API. It's probably hooked to like some static content somewhere. But it's very similar to what you did. Just set a background URL. Where's the? I want to know how they're doing this.
They got an app on this class. Oh, so they're using React too.
Potentially, yeah. but probably not because we're seeing it. So this is kind of a really good example of a normal HTML site. So if I come back over here and actually inspect what's going on here, hey, that looks fine. That looks good. I like it. But you see how there's like an ID root and some other stuff. This might be a React site.
It'd be amazing if they only use tools available in the 90s.
That's what I'm guessing they did.
Lots of tables.
Though it is responsive. So it's not that 90s.
She just goes
Shoot.
in.
I have no idea. I don't know anything about this movie. I just love the website.
So yeah, so this is all fine and dandy. We have still our same tools, but this is where we introduce a new debugging tool, and it's our React tools. Because if we go back here to our elements, we'll see that this isn't actually like our welcome message. We just see the H3 that the welcome message produces. So we don't actually see our React code here. Our React is getting compiled, built into stuff that's more browser friendly. So like if I come over here, we don't see welcome message anywhere. We don't see app anywhere. If I go into my sources and check out my JavaScript, this is my JavaScript. Not here, where is it? Here it is, main.chunk. This is my JavaScript. This is all my JavaScript. Like, I didn't write this.
So it created it for you based on the React.
Yep. So React is taking my JavaScript. They're very minimal because I've written like 10 lines of code, right? I created a new component, gave it a prop, and then I copy and paste that a lot. I didn't do much, right?
Right.
But look at this. I don't know if you can see but that's my scroll bar. This is huge. It's doing a whole bunch of stuff for me, which is fine and dandy because it's doing browser compatibility, it's doing optimization, it's doing error checking, it's doing a lot of stuff for me. For me as a developer, I can't debug this. If I'm ever looking at this, I'm doing something wrong. That's why we have our React DevTools. Not our AdBlock. No, not AdBlock. React. React DevTools is a Chrome extension. I'm sure there's an extension for other browsers, but I know there's one for Chrome. And what this does, this actually, and as you can see, this will show us our React stuff. So you see, here's our welcome message. If I click on one of those, you'll notice that, hey, my props for this welcome message username is Dr. Strange. So now I'm starting to see what all is going on here and what all is going on from a React point of view. Not so much a JavaScript, HTML, CSS point of view, but from now our React point of view a step back. So debugging it is slightly different. How are we feeling?
You know how you can play in the console when you're trying to maybe fix something?
Yep.
Would I play in this
Mhm.
then? Is that
So
what you're saying?
you can still play with HTML and CSS here all day.
Okay.
That's still a thing. I can come over here and go, ooh, I want to change my border or my margin from a 0.5 to a 25, and I can still do it.
Okay.
It's just where you actually apply that is going to be different. So if I want to say, my H3s, I want to have an H1 inside of them and a header and a body. Now do I make a new component? Do I just add it to a render section? So where you apply it's slightly different. But no, you can still play with this all day. So how are we feeling? Cool. So I'm going to take it one step further here. So you see how we have a repeated thing over and over and over again with one value that's different? What if we put that inside of a loop? Because remember, inside of the render function, that's just JavaScript. So we have something that's repeated over and over and over again. We can actually say, you know what, loop over it, but render out something that's different and unique for each one. Yep. So I'm going to create an array. For today, it's going to be outside of the class. Const heroes equals.
Not usually.
It won't be tomorrow, but for today it is. Okay. I don't want to do too much too fast. And say Batman.
So this would be like all the blackjack cards, like
Yep. We'll just do those ones for right now. So now what I can do here, I can actually go, hey, heroes. And because, remember, our squiggles need to return one value, I can't use a for loop because the for loop doesn't really return a value. But what do we have that does return a value? Our map. And we can go, hey, map over my heroes array. And for every hero, return to me a welcome message where the username equals the hero. So now instead of me having to copy and paste everything all the time, I can now just start adding heroes to my array. We have Doctor Strange. We had Catwoman. We had the Flash. We had Shazam. We had Captain Marvel.
If you duplicate one of those in the array, will it return an error or will it just pull the first one that it sees?
So if I duplicate it, if I put Batman in here twice,
Yeah.
it is going to render Batman twice. So it's not doing any sort of like uniqueness checking or anything like that. It's just saying, hey, I have an array of data that I'm going to iterate over. So if you put Batman in there twice, it's going to render out Batman twice.
unless maybe you had something in there that
Yeah.
checks that.
Yeah, you could have some logic later where you can like filter out duplications if you really wanted to. Yeah, you could do that in other places. But because we've abstracted out our data from our HTML, we can now use React to map over it.
So, potential use of this, if you were to create like, I don't know, like a chat room type website or
Yep.
something, and
Yep.
you wanted it to welcome everybody when they log in, you
Yep.
could just push their username to an array once they're logged in and then have it
Yep.
map over.
Or probably something a bit more applicable if we were making, I don't know, an Octocats website. We probably have a component for the nav bar that houses the header, and maybe an array of Octocats that we mapped over and rendered out an Octocat component for each one.
Kind of like AOL when they back in the day when AOL you log in, welcome, you got mail.
Yep, and it had a list of like who was online,
Mhm.
and then it would push to you who's online and who's. Yep.
Are we doing the off?
I'm not tossing it out there. It may not be your homework, but it might be your homework. I'm torn between two right now.
What's the other one if you would like some pushing?
It is. It's called Party Like It's 1989,
Oh, I love that one.
and it's all about like 1980. It's here's a JSON object of movies, and then show all the best movies from 1989. So it's the same idea. You have some data that you're iterating over. It's just kind of what do you want to do. So it's one of those two right now.
I didn't do that. It's homework, so. The first week, so
So it's one of those two, but it's one of those like now we have a list of components that are on our page, and we can now like map over if we have that data someplace else. Yes.
This dot map,
Yes.
is it passing data just like the this dot props?
Or does that also need to be in here?
So that's two different layers that we're talking about.
Okay.
So .map, if we recall from last week, is just a function that's on an array, and that's it. So all I'm doing here is that I'm effectively turning this list of strings into React components. And then while I'm doing that, I'm passing props to each one.
And then from .maps, do you do the for each?
We don't have to do a full each. But the map is
It
for
is the
each.
for each.
Yep.
So if we wanted to, for whatever reason, go back to one of our projects and build on it and test like React stuff to like change it, is there a way, like since we didn't do like Gamma or whatever, is there a way to like throw?
The easiest way to do that would be to create a new React app, copy over your CSS into the CSS file here, and copy over your HTML into the render function of your app.js. So your render function is really big.
Okay.
And then you kind of start plucking away components and pulling stuff out.
Can we do that with the Star Wars one we first created?
Yeah, we'll probably do that tomorrow or even tonight for our group with me at 3. We're gonna pick something that we did last week or last unit and make it and reactify it. Kind of see it in React.
I know we couldn't do like stuff like for loops in this thing here, this class, but would we be able to do like fetch, like catch an API or anything, or is that too?
So we can do a fetch. It's we do that in a different lifecycle. So we don't do it in render, we do it in someplace else. It's a really good Thursday topic. So it is a short week. So that means that we need to cram it a little bit more. Go a little bit faster this week, which is okay. React is one of those topics where we kind of like front load all the topics and then just really practice and work those skills. So we'll be building a lot of sample sites in the next 2 weeks.
So it's definitely different from our HTML, CSS. Our learning curve won't be as bad.
Yeah, so like this is one of those reset points inside the curriculum that we guys talked about. Like week 1 we started off relatively simple, built up to like crazy complex JavaScript stuff last week. Today we're back to the really simple stuff in React, and we're gonna build it back up again. So yeah. So this is almost like a knowledge reset. Though I hate the term reset because you know so much more now than you did day 1 of class. Just like learning, study habits, JavaScript, programming knowledge, debugging skills. Yeah. So, I'm feeling good. I think this is a really good first step into the React world. For your homeworks, it'll be assigned out by the end of lunch. And I'll see y'all back here with me at 3 to answer any questions and to kind of practice this more. Sound good? For your homework, as always, approach it HTML first, CSS first, and then worry about React. Make it dynamic and componentize it and everything.
Well, you said something earlier that's kind of got me.
Huh.
So since React is a second chapter,
Yeah.
like we did when we first started,
Yep.
you did the homework with us.
No. I'll file that under a good try.